with me dive into this heart of the story with Chapter 9, Part 3 of Miles Morales by Jason Reynolds. We're picking up the adventure on page 206. I'll be reading for about 20 minutes. Together, we're going to explore the twists and turns of Miles' journey, understanding more about his character, challenges, and the world around him. Whether you've been following from the start or just joining us, this session promises to deepen your connection with the story. So grab your headphones or listen as I read aloud, turn it up, find a comfortable spot. Let's continue this captivating tale. Ready to explore the next chapter in Miles' life? Let's go. Did you go to a different school? Miles asked. I tried, but when you got what I had on my record, and you live in Mississippi back then, ain't nobody want to be bothered with you. I was going to a college. Or I was going to go to a college. I was going to get my mother out of that old clapboard house. But that required money, and I just felt so, I don't know, like I couldn't win for losing. And guess what? When the world is breaking your back, it get a whole lot easier to break some laws. Ain't that the truth, Carlo said. And the Chamberlain stories continued. John, the only person at the table who hadn't dabbed in crime, had also been given the blues by a Mr. Chamberlain. I mean, I had a lot of rough, tough teachers, but the one that gave it to me the worst, funny enough, was also named Chamberlain. Yeah, I remember, Mal's father said. He and Aaron had gone to school with John. He used to ride Aaron hard. That's right. What was his actual title again? Because he wasn't really a teacher. He was the Dean of Discipline. He literally used to just walk the halls or pop into classrooms and pick out students he felt needed to be chastised. It just so happened that me, you, Aaron, and a few others were always those students. Yeah, like Tommy Rice. Remember him? Chamberlain yanked him out of, I can't remember the teacher's name, but she taught social studies. Tommy was asleep. But the reason why is because Tommy was up all night looking after his little brothers and sisters because his mom was tired a lot. And he was still doing his homework and stuff. We all knew that. I think most of the teachers knew that. But Chamberlain suspended him for sleeping. Sleeping? Said he was being, disrespectful. Yeah, he got Aaron on something crazy like that, too. Got him 3 times. And on the 3rd, he booted him from the school. But I kept going until Aaron started pulling up to the schoolyard in fancy cars. Other people's fancy cars, Miles' mother clarified, setting the bowl of candy on the small table by the front door. Right. The men all sat in silence for a moment. So, the moral to the story is, don't trust nobody named Mr. Chamberlain. Unless it's Wilt Chamberlain. Got it? Carlo gruffled. Oh, be quiet, Miles' mother said, wrapping her arms around Miles and Gank's shoulders. There's no way you can blame all the bad stuff in your life on a few rough or tough teachers. Absolutely not, Sip said. I don't blame nobody for my life but me. But I can tell you what, for some of us, school is like a tree we get to hide in, and at the bottom of it is a bunch of dogs. Them dogs are bad decisions. So when people shake us out of the tree for no reason, it becomes a lot easier to get bit. And that's the truth, John agreed. It don't always happen that way, but it differently kind of does happen. Don't matter what kind of family you from either. There's enough out here to snatch you away from a good upbringing, especially if you got idle time and no clear path to success. Man, forget about that, Carlo added. Okay, that's enough. Miles' mother cut the conversation. You boys leave these old men here to reminisce and complain while y'all go out to the Halloween party. She gave Gank a hug, and then she gave Miles one, and whispered in his ear, "Spill the salsa." How weird is that my dad's friends have bad stories about teachers like Mr. Chamberlain? Miles asked Gank as they walked to the train. He couldn't help but think about how one of the things that led them down the wrong path and the wrong road was being kicked out of school. School might have been the formula to create a continual function, a life drawn without interruption, calculus, or, to Miles' father and his friends, basic arithmetic. It was a strangely warm night for Halloween. Little kids dressed in witches and princesses, animals and superheroes were all out, walking slowly up and down the block. I mean, it's weird, but no more weird than if we were to ask how many people had a bad teacher named Mr. Johnson, Gank said. I'd probably be like 1,000,000 people. It's just one of those things. Besides, they were all different people. It would have been more of a shock if they had all had the same Mr. Chamberlain. Even the guy in Mississippi, like our Mr. Chamberlain, has spent his whole life as a traveling educational jerk. Word, Miles agreed, but it was still pinballing around in his mind until they got to the train. The train was full of people, some dressed in extravagant costumes, others in a simple mask, and some just trying to avoid the madness of Halloween. But what about the guard? Who? The guard in the prison. The one I told you whose name was Chamberlain, too. That's a coincidence. Miles gnawed on his bottom lip as the train doors closed. I doubt it. Once they were back on the Brooklyn Visions Academy campus, the boys ran up to their room to drop off their backpacks, wiped the sweat from their necks, and reapply deodorant. Well, Miles did. Gank reminded him about Koreans not having body odor. But I can smell you, dude, Miles said, digging around in his everyday jeans at the back of his closet. He pulled out the poem he had written Alicia, right where he'd left it. The denim had stained the paper indigo blue. Miles slipped into his sweatpants, then checked himself out in the mirror. Such a shame his fresh haircut was going to be hidden under a zombie mask, Miles thought. That's you. You smell, Salsa boy, Gank insisted. Now, can we please go to the Halloween party? I got some standing in the middle of the floor to do. They could hear the music blaring from the outside when they got to the Halloween party. A splattering of teenagers pushing through the doors to join. The auditorium was packed with dancing students dressed in funny costumes. Some were elaborate as a C-3PO, the golden robot from Star Wars, and others as simple as whiskers drawn on a face. The side walls were lined with tables of food and drinks. And up on the stage was a judge, dressed as a judge, with a fat pair of headphones on his head, standing behind 2 turntables. First, let's do a walkthrough, Gank screamed in Miles' ear. The two of them wormed through the crowd, trying to see who's there, who's not here. They recognized Winnie from first because she was dressed in regular clothes. a sleeveless dress and heels. Miles asked her, "Who are you supposed to be?" "What?" she yelled back. "Who are you?" Miles leaned in closer. "Oh, I'm Michelle Obama," she said, pointing to a small American flag pin on her chest. The triplets, Sandy, Mandy, and Brandy, were dressed up as the sun, the moon, and the stars, which were basically funny costumes made from felt and overused glue gun. Of course, Ryan was there. Miles was expecting him to be dressed in something cheesy, like a three-piece suit, but he had a well-crafted monster, which technically made him a pretty good-looking monster. But then he opened his mouth, and there were some fangs. Of course, any way to work in some type of goofiness. There were teachers there as well, some dressed in costumes, and some were not. Mrs. Khalil had elaborate feathered wing attachments connected to her arms and a break over her nose. It was enough of a costume for her to look cool, but still be able to walk around and monitor the students, who were constantly looking over their shoulders for a chance to grind against each other. Mrs. Blofus, on the other hand, well, all of us went all out. She did Edgar Allan Poe. The jet black hair, the stark white face, the black suit, and stuffed raven perched on her arm the whole time. Nailed it. Mrs. Tripley was dressed not as Frankenstein, but as Mary Shelley, the lady who wrote Frankenstein. As if anyone would figure that out. And Mr. Chamberlain was there too, as expected, dressed in a Civil War Confederate soldier, ghosting through the crowd, slipping in between dancing couples and wagging his fingers. When Miles and Gank saw him coming around them, Gank stopped cold. He put his hands together and froze in a Chamberlain position. Miles, however, rushed out of the crowd, away from Mr. Chamberlain. He didn't want to have any brush-ups with his teacher. At least not yet. He walked over to the punch table to pour himself a cup. But there was a long line. The thing waiting in front of him had a hunchback and a mess of matted hair and smelled of sandalwood. Alicia? The org turned around, and sure enough, it was her. Painted brown skin, painted in awful green color. She was landing red juice into a red cup. Alicia looked at Miles, but she didn't say anything. "Oh," he said, realizing he had his mask on, which also muffled his voice. "It's me." He yanked it up over his face. "Oh, hey," she said, her tone sizzling with awkwardness as she dropped the scoop back into the bowl and stepped to the side. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say hi, but she didn't. "First pour a drink, then spill the salsa," Miles was reminding himself. But before he could execute his plan, Alicia had ducked back into the crowd. "Pour me one, bro," Gank said, just then coming up on Miles' side. He took the full cup from Miles' hand. He pounded it back. "It's like she didn't even notice me." "Oh, yeah, she did. Her face is green." "Yeah, she was blushing." Before Miles could finish, Gank shouted, "But he didn't even notice me. Everybody else knew exactly what I was doing, but Chamberlain is so oblivious. It's like he didn't even see me. He's such a weirdo." Miles looked over Gank's shoulder, scanning the room for Alicia. Where might she have gone? he spotted her mixing into the mob of costumes. "We'll talk about it later," Miles said, dashing off toward her. He buried through the crowd, trying his best to avoid bumping anybody and splashing juice all over the place. Not that it would have mattered. If anything, it would have just looked like more fake blood. Miles, still unmasked, found Alicia in the corner. Huddled with some other people, Miles recognized them. At least the ones who weren't wearing masks. Most of them were her Dream Defender friends, like Dawn, Leary, but others were students from class, like Brad Canby, dressed as a professional tennis player. "Alicia!" Miles tried to get her attention, but she didn't hear him. He had been waiting for this moment all day, planning out in his head how he was going to do it and how to say it. He slipped the folded poem out of his pocket. "Alicia!" She turned away from Dawn. "I have to tell you something." Miles took a step toward her. As soon as he did, a volcano erupted in his stomach, an earthquake in his head. Oh no! And before he could say another word, Mr. Chamberlain came out of nowhere, wedging himself between Miles and Alicia. He eyeballed Miles, and Miles swallowed hard. How about a little distance between you two, Morales? If I see you trying anything inappropriate, we'll have a problem." "Nobody's trying anything," Alicia puffed up. Miles' skin got hot as if he were cooking from the inside out. But he held his tongue and nodded his head. Mr. Chamberlain walked away, pushing through the teenage jumble. "He's so mean," Alicia muttered. "And by the way, I have to tell you something, too. I'm sorry about what happened in class. I should have said something or done something." It's fine," Miles was distracted. "Okay, well, there's something else I need to tell you about. But first, what did you have to say?" Alicia asked. Her face, though green, was still pleasant. "Huh?" Miles said. "What did you have to tell me?" she asked again, still bobbing her head to the music. She gave him a slight smile, her tongue resting gently between her teeth. But Miles was too busy darting his eyes at Mr. Chamberlain's back as he scolded other kids. He no longer felt the buzzing in his head that he was now certain was coming from Chamberlain, though the buzzing went to his stomach, and this one was from Alicia. He thought about what his mother said when they were dancing in the living room. Just let your body do what it wants. It's telling you how it wants to move to the music. Miles held the paper up, unfolded it. He watched as Mr. Chamberlain spoke to another teacher. Tapped his watch like it was already time for him to go. Miles turned back to Alicia, whose smile was slowly straightening, her head slightly tilted, her eyes rolling, ready to roll. Miles checked Mr. Chamberlain again as he headed for the side door. He pushed it open. "I wanted to say..." Now Miles' attention was back on Alicia again, but only for a moment. Then Chamberlain, "Alicia, this is for you." Miles finally handed her the blue-stained paper with the C. scribbled on it. Alicia, befuddled, began reading it, but by the time she lifted her eyes again, Miles was gone. All right, boys and girls, teenagers, we've wrapped up Chapter 9. Stay tuned for Chapter 10. The adventure continues.